I'm going to clean and oil my sewing machine today, so I thought I'd just show you how I do it. The first thing that you want to do when you're going to clean and oil your sewing machine is to actually turn it off, because you don't want anything bumping that presser foot that you have and then causing your sewing machine to run. For example, if your cat were going to walk across it, or your little dog. And then the next thing you want to do is remove your needle, because you don't want to mistakenly sew through your finger. And also, this is sharp and you could cut yourself, and you don't need your needle in the way. Now when I remove my needle, what I'm going to do here is, see, I've got my thread coming down through my needle. This is where my thread comes across, and then right here it goes down in the tension discs. And I don't want to grab, when I'm changing thread, I don't want to grab this and pull it this way, because it'll just take any lint from the threads that happens to be down inside this area, and it'll just pull them into the tension discs, and that'll mess up tension. So I'm going to cut the threads right here. And every time I change threads, this is how I do it. After I cut the threads, I'll just take the thread and pull it out through the needle. And you might feel like that's kind of a waste. We just wasted 12 or 15 inches of thread, but it's really better to do it that way than to risk pulling lint up into your tension discs. Then we're going to want to remove the needle so that we don't bump into it. We can take off our foot. You don't want that getting in your way. My machine came with this screwdriver, which you can see it's kind of awkward to get it in here. It does get in there and I can, but it's just awkward. But a penny works really well too. And then I can actually get a little bit of purchase on it. So try a coin if you're having a hard time. I keep this screw someplace safe, because replacing this if you lost it would be tricky. And I'm just going to take all of this out. Here's my holder for the bobbin. I want to just take note of the direction that's facing so I can get it back in there properly. And I've got a lot of dust in here. I'll zoom in a little bit so that you can see. There's a lot of little bits of fiber inside. And we're going to just clean that out. The best thing for cleaning this is to just use a little stiff brush. Your brush may have been something that came with your machine. But see, I've got this lint that's coming out. So I'm just going to gently sort of brush around here and remove all of this lint. Try not to push any dust back down into the components when you're cleaning. You know, when you're cleaning, try and flick it out of the machine and not back in there. If you're starting to have problems with your bobbin thread or tension, cleaning this is a really good thing to do. Just make sure that it's not dust down there that's causing your problem, or lint. Although it's a good idea to just be in the practice of cleaning your machine out every once in a while. You don't want to put canned air or any of those things that you'd use to maybe clean a computer keyboard in here, because it would just push the lint further into the machine where it will cause mischief. Just go around all the places here with your brush. And pull out all the lint. That way everything, when it's spinning, nothing's jamming stuff up in here. Alright, I think I've got that pretty clean. I'll show you what it all looks like. This is the gross pile of lint that I just pulled out of my machine. And it's just little bits of fiber, little bits of string, little bits of lint from some things I was sewing. I was sewing some pink fleece. You can see the little bits of pink fiber in there from the fleece. One time I did a project where I was sewing with a lot of denim, and boy, this whole thing, when I cleaned it, was just full of blue denim. So different types of fabrics are going to produce more lint that gets caught down in your bobbin case, but it's good to get that all cleaned up. And if you see right down in here where I'm pointing with my screwdriver, in the center of this hole, that is a wick. And if your machine has a wick like that, then you can oil your sewing machine. And that little wick will transport the oil from this little well to the places inside your machine that need to be oiled. I'm just going to use some multi-purpose sewing machine oil to oil the machine. I'm just going to put 2 drops on top of that wick. 1, 2. That's it. Now that little wick will soak in that oil and draw it into the places inside where the machine actually uses oil. If your machine does not have a wick, do not put oil in there. Okay, I'm just going to tap it off with a little bit of scrap fabric here. This is just a piece of linen. And then we can put our little bobbin case back in the same way. It has these little ears sticking up. Those ears just go straight back. Then we can put our needle plate back on. We've kept our screw in a safe spot so that we didn't lose it. And now we can just screw our screw back on. Now we can put our bobbin back in, rethread our machine. Now is a really good opportunity to put a fresh needle back on your machine. Now that we're all done with our fingers down here, we can put a fresh needle in. Thread the machine. Now that we're done and we have our fingers out of the way, we can turn the machine back on. And before sewing anything that you really value, just take your little piece of scrap fabric and run some stitches. That way, if there's any residual oil that's going to make its way up to the fabric, you've just prevented that from harming your next project. Now our machine's all rethreaded and cleaned, and we are oiled and we're good to go. These modern machines, it's advised not to do any additional oiling than what we've just done, and to instead take them in occasionally for a service. So depending on how much you use your machine, that may be once a year. Today may be a good opportunity to remind you to clean your machine, and if you have a wick, to give it a little bit of oil, and to check your instruction manual to see if you do have a wick and if you can oil your machine. And happy sewing. Thanks for watching.